Group 9 Theoretical Frameworks 2009 marked the first time in the history of humanity where globally more people were living in urban areas than in rural. By 2050, the urban population will likely be the same as the world's total population was in 2004. This massive influx of people to urban centers, particularly in the developing world, poses an important developmental challenge. Theoretical frameworks identify 4 methodologies in order to capture the nuances and complexities of poverty from a distinct point of view. Each applies their own tailored understanding of particular context and a shift in thinking from the perspective of professionals, organizations, governments, and the urban poor communities to become more adaptive. The Sustainable Livelihoods Framework is a tool to improve our understanding of livelihoods, particularly the livelihoods of the poor. This model is divided into people, basic needs, resources, assets, shocks and stresses, and access and control. People need to both survive from day to day and accumulate assets to build up resilience to withstand short-term shocks and long-term stresses. Denver Township on the outskirts of Joburg can be used as a case study to illustrate the framework. Analysis revealed that the area was prone to hazards such as flooding and drought, as well as high volumes of pollution due to a lack of waste facilities, as waste trucks had no access to the site. An unstable land situation limits the potential livelihood of the residents. Denver struggles with issues such as overcrowding, a lack of safety and security, difficult access for emergency vehicles such as fire trucks and ambulances, and poor quality of housing conditions due to limited availability of building materials and necessary skills. All of these factors contribute to the inescapable poverty cycle, as any built-up assets are always at risk. Denver has several positive developments in terms of infrastructure and amenities. It's located alongside Main Reef Road in close proximity to numerous taxi routes, and Taronga train station is approximately 1 kilometer away. There is access to clean running water, yet most electrical connections are illegal by a dangerous maze of overhead wires. Access to resources becomes a DIY process when not supplied by the state. The resilience framework is the ability for a particular system to shift in the face of a shock or stress. One is able to measure the appropriate response to reduce vulnerability of the system by focusing on 4 elements: context, disturbance, capacity to deal with disturbance, and the reaction to it. The shock, the sudden reality of El Niño droughts experienced in South Africa. Recent research revealed imminent exposure to climate change. Regional collaboration is considered the best way to manage scarce resources such as water. Regional cooperation and lesson learning are essential to efficiently deal with common issues facing Africa and for supporting national efforts to reduce poverty. The stress, informal housing and ruimsig. Housing policy has recently seen a shift in upgrading informal settlements rather than eradicating them. The informal studio provided alternative lenses in facilitating spatial decisions and securing future scenarios and tools, allowing the system to bounce back with minimal internal disruption. The stress, poor infrastructure and amenities experienced by the eThekwini municipality's informal settlements. The system had been affected by the lack of infrastructure. This program sought to provide interim solutions during the stress felt by the community by providing sanitation blocks, roads, footpaths, stormwater controls, and electrical connections. The rights-based approach focuses on the human rights of society over individual needs. It considers both the civilians as right holders and civil servants as duty bearers. It aims to strengthen the capacity of both parties to demand and supply rights respectively, to improve lawmaking processes, and to implement recourse to rights violations. Human rights pertaining to issues of land in the urban context include the right to own property, to equal opportunity, to participate in community, and the right to desirable work. An example of the violation of these rights can be illustrated in the land claims of District 6 in the 1970s. The state's inability to supply acceptable housing in Innerdale violated the rights of an adequate standard of living, the right to dignity and privacy, and to participate in elections due to an unrecognized informal address. The resulting protests, a legal right in South Africa, started to encroach upon the residents' right to safety and security, work, education, and freedom of movement. National statistics on service delivery protests are staggering. Poor provision of services and amenities violate the human rights to water and sanitation, freedom of movement, education, access to healthcare, rest and leisure, and participation in community. This approach aims to give people a peaceful forum for voicing their grievances, as well as aiding the state in addressing these problems. The capability approach is based on maximizing an individual's capabilities in conjunction with their assets, resources, and local needs. It harnesses the ingenuity of people. Where an individual has the ability to translate their assets into anything they choose or value, there is potentially a more useful way to uncover a developmental focus and to evaluate its success. This approach is primarily concerned with the distribution of opportunities and freedoms, rather than assets or rights. Agency is defined as the individual's freedom to choose and bring about the things that they value. Therefore, the process of selecting capabilities and understanding the contextual limitations play a great role in the success of the capability approach. The capability of space is the ability and opportunity to transform resources into achieved functionings. Ekurhuleni offers an example of the urban poor identifying vacant land that is close to basic amenities. This land is then claimed and informally developed, using recycled materials to build shelters, as the inhabitants don't have access to formal housing. Urban practitioners involved in the capability approach need to avoid imposing universal values on the informal systems developed by residents. In Denver, a fairly successful spatial arrangement has been designed by the site users, incorporating public spaces, shared amenities such as communal taps, and highly visible ablutions to improve the vulnerability of women. The four frameworks provide a means of understanding and addressing the issues pertaining to informal urbanization as a global phenomenon and can be applied to the context of South Africa. Each framework provides a unique perspective on a whole context and assists in outlining the most effective, appropriate, and constructive way to approach the task at hand.